then I'm trying, but you don't want, you wish people wouldn't see yours, but I kind of wish people would see mine, because I've basically, to put it in layman's terms so that people can understand, it's not medically correct. I'm not a doctor, but I've basically had my left ear amputated from the inside out. My ear's still on there, but the insides have been worked on to where I'm an amputee. But when I'm in a store, I'm not wearing a prosthetic leg. I don't, like in your situation, you wish people couldn't see that disability. But for me, it's kind of like, maybe if I looked more sick or more disabled, then I could get the compassion I deserve and get the empathy and the sympathy that I need to be able to get through my day. But I don't get that. So it's kind of a battle. It's a catch-22 with both of us. You always wish you always wish for what you don't have. But that's the cards I've been dealt.
And you're playing a good hand. So tell me about what have you been doing in order to promote awareness and get people to understand, the vestibular conditions. Like I know you wrote a book. So tell us about the book.
Well, the book wasn't really in the cards to say if I was dealt the right hand, but last August, I decided, after being on my couch for 3 years, I'd get up and ride my e-bike from Denver, Colorado to Columbus, Ohio, where I grew up, 1,400 miles, and I would document it. And I figured, with the sort of balance issues I have, I use a cane sometimes. When I don't use a cane, I look like a drunk guy. I wobble and fall into things. But I figured, if I could ride a bike 1,400 miles with my kind of condition, it might raise some eyebrows. And it did. I was hoping to maybe get 30 to 50 people to be interested. And I was hoping to raise about $500 for research to help us out in the vestibular community with the Meniere's disease. But it just blew up. I mean, within the month, it took me a month to ride 1,400 miles. And by the end of the month, we had over 3,000 people following us on social media. We had donations flowing in, and we raised over $10,000 for research and awareness. And it started this crazy snowball rolling down a hill that kept getting bigger and bigger. And I was more and more recognized for what I was doing. And I really didn't want it. I wanted to do my trip and park my bike and unplug and just go back to my couch. But there was such an outpouring of people contacting me saying, I watched your trip and I'm inspired. And that made me feel good. And it also made me feel like, okay, I can't stop this now. I need to take the next step. So the next step was, people were like, we want to know more about you. So then my brother Dave, who's my main support, we co-authored a book together, and it's been doing great. And it just flowed from the trip. It's a memoir about our bike trip and a little bit about my background, and it gives Dave's angle on him viewing me with my disease as a family member, which is huge, because a disability affects your family dynamics in a big way on what you can do and what you can't do. And the book was a success, and it's still a success. But now I was just like, well, what's next? And so we have another bike trip coming up this September. So September 1st, we're going to do another 1,400 miles, which I'm an idiot for even thinking about doing, because the first trip damn near killed me. So this one, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I know what I'm getting into this time. But I think the community that supports me would be great. Now, the difference is that trip was specifically followed by Meniere's and vestibular people. And I think my story, and I think my book, I wanted to broaden beyond that into the disability community, like the complete disability community, because I think it'll inspire them. And I'm hoping to even go further than that and go outside into what I would untechnically call the regular people, the healthy community, and let them see my story and share my story with them, so that they can see what we go through with disabilities.
That's awesome. What did it feel like getting on the bike for the first time?
Horrible, exciting, rejuvenating, scared to death. I just went for it. I was just like, I'm not an avid cyclist and I'm not an avid exercisist. I don't get up and work out. I don't ride a bike all the time. I was never a professional bike racer. I rode my bike once a year, if that, but I just thought it would be a good platform. So I figured this would be a platform that would attract attention. And boy, it did. It attracted a lot of attention.
That's awesome. Were you journaling as you rode the bike, like just because, or after you got back from the trip, you actually started the writing process?
No. I definitely didn't journal every day because I would get done riding my bike for 8 hours to 12 hours a day. I'd be so wiped out, and I would do all my energy went into the social media aspect, trying to, comment back to people who commented me and touch base with the people who were following the trip. I didn't journal one night. I didn't write anything down. About a month after my trip, I sat down just to write out my thoughts, and I didn't plan on a book. I just wanted to write down a paragraph of, what did I learn, if anything, for me, it was personally for me. It was like, what did I get from this? So I wrote a paragraph and I kept writing, and 8 hours later, I had 5 chapters of a book written. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this could be a book. So I called my brother, Dave, who drove the support van. I said, I think we got a book here. So would you be into helping me write this book and co-author it with me? And he was like, absolutely. So it was an afterthought. And I'm kind of glad. If I would have been thinking about writing the book during the trip, I think it would have changed what I did on the trip. And I needed to do the trip a certain way. And then afterwards, I just had to recollect and write the book from what I remembered and my conversations. And it was very fresh at that time. I was only a month off the trip. So I remembered everything because it was so real and in my face. It was raw. It was gritty. It was the pain. It was the suffering. It was the good times, the bad times. And my battle was just right in my face. And so I was like, I'm going to bang this thing out. So I wrote the book in 3 months, and my brother went back and added his thoughts in certain parts. And I'm very proud of what we came up with.
Yeah, I ordered it today, so I can't wait to read it and have you back on the show to talk more about it. But what was the most was there a highlight of the trip, good or bad, or was there a moment when you said, you know what, this is amazing, I'm glad I did this? Or was it something that you could only reflect on afterwards?
Not once did I think this is amazing and I'm glad I did it until I finished. Okay. When I pulled into the finish line in Columbus, Ohio, and I went 1,400 miles through thick and thin, the good, the bad, and the ugly, I didn't take a deep breath and enjoy it until I finally got off my bike at the very end, because so many people were following it by then and so many people were donating. I felt an extreme pressure that I have to succeed. And so when you have that pressure, you don't really enjoy it. You're just like, I have to go another mile. I have to get to the next city. I have to get up tomorrow and do this again. And so I put a ton of pressure on myself, maybe unneeded, but what else do you do? That's just the way it is when you're sick every day. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I would have to be like, I have to do this because I took this up and people are donating and following. So it's up to me to get to the finish. Then once I got to the finish, it was just weight off my shoulders. I sat down and I was really proud of what we as a team accomplished, because it wasn't just me. We had a team of people that supported me.